Israel has hit back at what it called a profoundly distorted genocide case brought by South Africa in response to Israel's war in Gaza. The hearing at the UN's top court has entered its second day as Tel Aviv took the stand to defend its operations in the besieged enclave.
The applicant has regrettably put before the court a profoundly distorted factual and legal picture. The entirety of its case hinges on a deliberately curated, decontextualized, and manipulative description of the reality of current hostilities.
Israel's legal team has called on the International Court of Justice to dismiss South Africa's request to halt its offensive, adding that ending its campaign in Gaza would leave it defenseless. Tel Aviv says its actions in Gaza are acts of self-defense against Hamas and maintains the army is not targeting Palestinian civilians. Gaza officials say more than 23,700 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes since the 7th of October. Yesterday, South Africa laid out its key request to the UN's top legal body. Arguments focused on establishing that Israeli attacks in Gaza were carried out with genocidal intent. The case is likely to take years to resolve, but South Africa is asking the ICJ to order an immediate suspension of the offensive. The court is expected to rule on emergency measures for the enclave later this month. More Ishan Garg joins us live from The Hague. Ishan, we just heard possibly the main thrust of the Israeli defense, but what other points were raised at the World Court today?
Well, Israel's entire defense has depended on two key arguments, first of which has been self-defense. Israeli side has argued at the World Court that its attacks against Hamas were particularly an act of self-defense, and any casualties that may have come out of that would only unintended consequences. It has also highlighted the fact that it has provided enough humanitarian assistance in the sense that it has asked people to vacate those areas. It has also enabled people to move out of the Gaza Strip, and it has also called South Africa's case completely baseless and an act of hypocrisy. The second thing that the Israeli officials have relied on has been proving that there was no intent of genocide, which legal experts say kind of lies at the very core of South Africa's argument, of Israel's argument, and therefore this entire case. So they are arguing that there was no intent from Israeli officials, and that words of Israeli military officials have been taken out of context, and that statements made by certain military personnel can't be reflected as the opinion of an entire state, which is why they have asked the International Court of Justice to not issue the provisional measures that were asked by South Africa, which could have stopped the war if Israel agreed to them, and have instead asked the court to throw the case out entirely.
Ishan, of course, yesterday we heard South Africa open the hearing. Today was Israel's day in court. What's next after these 2 days?
Well, what comes next really depends on which way the court decides. If it decides in the favor of South Africa to provide provisional measures, those could come in the next 2 to 3 weeks. If it decides that it will not provide provisional measures, the wider case still goes on, and that case will take 3 or 4 years to reach a verdict, according to legal experts. We have seen in past several cases the ICJ likes to take its time with the hearings. What we understand from experts is that several rounds of legal submissions in written form are going to be presented at the ICJ. There will be arguments made, counter-arguments made by either teams of the two sides, and that is a long, drawn-out process, which means that this legal battle could take several more years to be finished. But if the provisional orders were to be issued, they could come in just in the next few weeks.
Well, thanks for the update and look at Ishan Garg reporting live there from The Hague.